We're now live, Chair.
Right, thank you, Kirsty. Good afternoon, members, and welcome to the Planning Committee meeting on Tuesday, the 9th of March. We are live, so people can watch this, so please be careful with what you say. If members can put themselves on mute until their turn is to speak, that'd be grateful. Starting off with agenda, item number 1, substitutes nominated for this meeting, and apologies for absence.
Hi, Chair. Councillor Sweeney sent his apologies and Councillor Lynn is substituting on his behalf.
Okay, thank you, Kirsty. Members' interest. Just remind members that if any members have any disclosable pecuniary interest or any other interest they might have in relation to the items included on this agenda. No. Okay. Admission to the public. The item is not exempt, so therefore public are allowed in this meeting. Item number 4, minutes of the meeting of Planning Committee held on the 16th of February 2021. If we have somebody to approve and to second them, approved by Councillor Baines, seconded by Councillor Hutchinson. Thank you. Withdrawn applications. We have no withdrawn applications, I take it. Oh, okay. Right, so the planning application we have today is application number 20/00117 full. So that's over to our planning officer for their presentation.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just try and share my screen with you. Can people see that?
Yes.
We can.
Yes, thank you. Right, I'll continue, Chair. Right, thank you, Chair. Application before you this afternoon is for the construction of a straw bale house. It's land west of 8 Glenview Road, Hebden Bridge. We've had 1 letter of support from the architect and 1 objection received. These are summarised for you on page 7 of the officer's report. It's before you this afternoon, members, at the request of Councillor Courtney, who supports the scheme as she considers that the straw bale buildings offer an environmentally friendly alternative to conventional buildings. After quite a bit of debate at the parish council meeting, members resolved not to oppose this application and again requested that it be heard before yourselves. The key issues are set out on this slide. It's quite a detailed report from the officer, and I'll bring together at the end some conclusions of our own. So in terms of the slideshow, site, as usual, outlined in red. The proposal is for a dwelling in the green belt and the special landscape area, which is adjacent to an ancient woodland, and it's on the site of an ecological and geological interest. Onto the aerial showing the site in red. It's quite steeply sloping from north to south, and you've got Glenview Road hooking round, leading onto the terrace properties adjacent. This was submitted by the applicant. It shows the site in red and the sites in blue are in the applicant's land ownership. It's a bit of a cluttered slide as this one, I'm afraid, but essentially it's showing the existing site layout. There are numerous structures on the site, which we can see on the photos. They include things like a polytunnel, a mobile hen hut and a run, and some fruit cages. I can find no record of any planning permissions for these structures. Again, quite a detailed plan. The thing to note really is the yellow building. This is proposed to be the new dwelling. This shows a tree plan of the site. They're not protected, although surrounded by woodlands. It's a mix of mostly self-seeded birch, oak, and what appear to be just bushes, really. One tree, the ash, where my cursor is, would be proposed to be removed. We'll go on to the elevations, members. The structure would be constructed from straw bales with a white lime render. on the walls, and the roof is proposed as metal. There will be timber decking, showed where the cursor is, and the foundations will be constructed from car tyres. Southeast elevation showing an array of solar panels and solar water panels and rainwater harvesting tanks. It will be smaller from the other elevation due to the lie of the land. Ground floor plan showing an accessible living room, a principal bedroom, secondary bedroom or study, and a bathroom. First floor plan just showing a platform area and some loft and storage space. I've gone to the photos now. So we've got the bend in the road onto an existing access, which this proposed access will be taken from this access where you can see the small bollards. That gives you a bit of a closer up of the access. I think Andrew's joining us a little bit later, but he can explain the highway considerations for you. Northeast from the parking area, across the site, you can see back to the main road. And these are some of the structures we referred to on the existing site plan, what appears to be a chicken run and polytunnel. And the red arrow is indicating where the proposed dwelling would sit. The little hen run there, adjacent to the southern boundary, and a view southwest of the site. Got some old cat steps leading upwards, and again a view of the hen run with a hen. Polytunnel, and the structure is a fruit cage. I think the report is very detailed, but just to draw together some of your officers' thoughts for you. By definition in the MPPF, this is inappropriate developments within the green belt. The next step of that is whether any very special circumstances apply. The circumstances put forward by the applicant are that there is already a shortage of housing in the borough. It would be of low carbon, it would be affordable and use recycled materials. These circumstances have been considered, and we have to balance the harm of the development on the openness of the green belt and see whether there are any benefits to outweigh that harm. We have concluded that there are not. Additionally to that, there is something else called any other harm. There are highway objections, which are detailed at length in the report. Additionally, the site lies within the local wildlife area, a site of special ecological and geological interest, the wildlife corridor, a habitat network, and is immediately adjacent to ancient woodland. The Council's Conservation Officer and the Yorkshire Wildlife Trust consider that an ecological impact assessment should have been more fully carried out, as there is insufficient information to enable an assessment on the impact of the protected species. Therefore, officers are recommending refusal for the 6 reasons set out on pages 21 and 22 of the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay. Can we take down the screen sharing, please?
Sorry, just finding it on the screen.
That's okay.
There we go.
Okay. Members, any questions for the officer? Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Chair. My question is that the polytunnels and the other structures that are there now, should they have had planning permission?
Yes, I don't know how long they've been there, so the exemptions do come into play for changes of use of land, and they're clearly quite old. But structures, unless they're clearly agricultural, but there's no holding attached to it, so we would have asked for an application.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any more members for questions? The officer? Okay. If not, we'll go on to Councillor Courtney wishes to speak on this application. Councillor Courtney, it's over to you. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to try and do this thing where I look at another screen at the same time, which is possibly going to be slightly challenging. So let's have a go. Here we go. Okay, I've managed to split my screen, which feels like a technical achievement. So
can I just ask you, Pete, also this ticking time?
Yes, of course. So as one of the councillors for Calderdale Ward, I would like to speak in support of this application. There are several points I'd like to make regarding why I believe this development should be considered as special circumstances, which is the main reason for being able to for it to be built on greenbelt. So regarding building it on greenbelt land. So in Calderdale, firstly in Calderdale, we've declared a climate emergency, creating sustainable housing that has low carbon emissions, both in terms of building materials and methods and in long-term energy use, has to be an essential element in our fight against climate change. This house would be a great example, not just of how this can be achieved by developers, but also by self-builders. Secondly, our Chief Executive, Robin Tuddenham, has recently written to members to highlight the importance of building more houses, as we've recently done poorly in our housing delivery test. While this is only one house, if we can show that we as a planning authority can be sympathetic to self-builders, especially self-builders of sustainable houses, perhaps we'll increase the number of these houses as they are more affordable to build than traditional houses. And this leads on to my next point, which number 3, the community college in Todmorden is going to be used in part by Strawworks in the School of Natural Building. This house would be used to provide courses and practice for other people, whether self-builders or otherwise, in sustainable and natural building techniques, which could then help to increase the number of self-built houses in Calderdale. Strawworks are a very experienced company, and Barbara Jones and her team have designed many beautiful and durable residential and commercial buildings using straw bales and natural materials. Collectively, they've been involved in some capacity in more than 300 natural buildings in the last 25 years. So they really know what they're doing, ranging from tiny garden buildings to the UK's largest straw bale build to date. This includes council housing for North Kynaston Council in Lincolnshire. So straw bale houses are being used by local authorities. So it's really, really good technology. It's really good sort of sustainable technology. And also a meeting room for the Ecology Building Society in Silsden, which isn't that far away. I believe that this house would offer a beacon of hope to self-builders and to others who need access to low-cost housing. It would help us at CMBC, who need to look at all ways possible to address our poor record on house building. And I think it would offer a beacon of hope to our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, locally and globally, in showing that taking a proactive stance in sustainable house building with short and long-term low-carbon emissions is achievable. And that's why, for those reasons, I think this should be considered as special circumstances. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Courtney. Any questions, members, for Councillor Courtney? Okay, no questions. Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Going on to the applicant. Donna, can you hear us okay? Donna, can you hear us?
Yes, sorry, I was on mute.
Okay, no problem. Donna, you have 5 minutes to put forward your case. At the end of that 5 minutes, members have the opportunity to ask you questions on your application. So, Donna, it's over to you.
Thank you. Hello, I am Donna. I am not a normal applicant, and my application is definitely not normal. I would like to self-build an off-grid straw bale house aided by Strawworks, the School of Natural Building, volunteers and other self-builders using it as a training site and then afterwards as a reference site. I am neither a developer nor an architect. However, over the last couple of years, I have put my heart and soul into designing it, drawing up the plans and writing supporting documentation by myself. From the start, Calderdale Planning said that my application is inappropriate development and that no very special circumstances have been provided for the dwelling that would outweigh the harm that the dwelling would create. There are special circumstances, but in a different way to the normal. I cannot provide tangible benefits like shops, schools, road infrastructure changes, etc., as the larger greenbelt development sites can. Instead, I offer a hands-on educational community build to learn about using natural building materials, reuse of recycled or waste products, and off-grid technologies. I have a lot of documents, so I'm going to briefly discuss the ones written in response to the public and consultee comments. Countryside Services and Woodland Trust immediately objected as my land was ancient woodland. My ancient woodland document is what I sent to Natural England as proof that it had been incorrectly assigned. Natural England then clarified that this was a mistake. Yorkshire Wildlife commented that the house had to be a minimum of 15 metres from the roots of the trees in the neighbouring ancient woodland. My buffer zone document addresses this with photos and scale drawings. I have moved the building 15 metres away from both boundaries and submitted a new site plan. My ecologist states his ecology report does follow CIEEM guidance. He mentions that the construction of a low-impact sustainable property positioned in an area already cleared and used for horticulture is considered unlikely to impact on the protected species or habitats and unlikely to have negative effects on the existing wildlife corridor. He recommends the removal of the wind turbine and for enhancement measures to add extra hedgerows, bat boxes and specific lighting. I have made all his recommended changes and submitted a new site plan, BZ04. Countryside Services and Yorkshire Wildlife are still commenting on bats and the wind turbine, despite having said that they would support it if the wind turbine was removed. I don't think they have seen the latest site plan, so that is why they are still pushing for a more thorough survey. My highways document addresses highways comments. I show maps of locations of pavements, LED street lamps, bus stops and shops, and all relevant distances to demonstrate that it is a sustainable site with good transport links. There is a detailed scale drawing showing that 2 cars can drive in, turn around and drive out. For the last 10 years, it has been used for my residential parking, but one of the previous uses was for a garage business. On the 1963 OS map, you can see the site entrance and the driveway to the access. The site entrance is still the same size and in the same position. The road is still unclassified with 2 metre access only. The only change is a reduction in the speed limit from 30 to 20. So why does the entrance need to change? I have provided calculations for sight lines and stopping distances and mapped them out showing that if the site entrance is moved further uphill, then these nowadays distances can be achieved. This would involve doing more harm to the environment though, which I believe is unnecessary. This is why I have not moved the site entrance. My comments document addresses the public objection. I spoke to most of my 8 neighbours before submitting the application. I have always said it is for me to live in. I have explained that it is the building process and the education behind it, allowing people to learn how to self-build an affordable home. I chose a metal roof for potable water capture, and the design is long and thin to sit on the existing terrace. However, if I can find an alternative for potable water, then the roof could be covered in cedar shingles instead. I am hoping that you can see from my documents that the dwelling will not be built on land with great conservation value, nor will it impact neighbouring land and wildlife corridors, and that the previous mentioned special circumstances outweigh the harm this dwelling would create. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Donna. Members, do you have any questions for the applicant? Councillor Hutchinson.
Thank you, Chair. Donna, I can understand how the water supply will be secured, but obviously I know the plans are for a composting toilet, but there is grey water going to be generated from this and other wastewater, and I can't see from the plans how you propose to dispose of that off-grid. Can you just sort of clarify that for me?
Yes, I guess I haven't really gone into all the technologies in great depth because I'm a novice to it all. But I know that the grey water system has to be kept, separate from obviously from your rainwater capture, and especially if you're going for the potable. So I don't know in great details the whole mechanism behind the grey water system yet.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions, members? No. Okay, that's it. Thank you, Donna. Appreciate that. Okay. So, any comments or proposals from members? Because we've no one else to speak on this. So, Councillor Baines.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's I am actually in favour of straw bale buildings. In 2009, I backed the Shelf Library to be built of straw bales, and that structure is still well, and it was very economical to build, and it had benefits as well. So I'm not against straw building, but I am against building in the green belt. I think I've been pretty consistent of this throughout my time on the planning committee. And I think with all the other reasons that Lisa has talked about in her presentation, I think the planning officers have got this right. And I would propose that we adopt the planning officers' recommendations. And I so move that if somebody was prepared to second it.
Councillor Hutchinson. Councillor Hutchinson.
Yes, I would like to second that as well, Chair. I agree that the design of the building, I have no problem with that whatsoever, but it's the siting of the building that I do have serious concerns about. And I agree with the officers' recommendations.
Okay, right. Do we have any more comments or proposals from other members? Councillor Porritt.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Donna, for a really interesting presentation. I'm pretty much going to reiterate actually what Councillor Baines and Councillor Hutchinson have said. I think it's a really exciting project. I think I'm inspired by the sheer determination and enthusiasm and the learning opportunities and all of those brilliant things. I don't think it's the right place for this project to take place. The site there's too many reasons against the site. I would love to see some land made available for something like this to happen that would be a suitable piece of land, because it's a really exciting opportunity, but I just don't think this is the right piece of land, unfortunately.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Porritt. Any more questions or proposals from members? Okay. We've got a proposal on the table to go with officers' recommendations to refuse from Councillor Baines, which is seconded by Councillor Hutchinson. All those in favour of officers' recommendations to refuse? Okay. Right. And there's nobody against. I think that's been carried. Okay, so that's fallen. That's gone with officers' recommendations to refuse. Okay. Thank you, members. I think that's it.